Hi, it's David Parrish again, here to talk to you about disciple-making movements. You know, about 30 years ago, I was involved in starting a Christian school. So the first thing that I did when I got out of college was help start a Christian school. And I was the principal for a couple of years, the administrator for several more years after that. And I remember something that happened. Of all the memories that I have from my days working in a school, one was this. I remember leaving the parking lot one day. I was having to drive somewhere to do something, and I'm driving out of the school parking lot, and one of the parents of one of the kids runs out to see me. They open the door of the passenger side. I'm looking at them out the passenger side of my door, and they have one of their little kids. They had one of their kids was enrolled in our school, and then they had like a 4-year-old kid, and the little 4-year-old child was standing there at my door, and this parent pokes their head in, and they're talking to me about something, and we're talking for a minute, and all of a sudden that little kid just goes, "Ah, choo!" and just literally sneezed all over me. And then we finished our conversation, and I drove off, and I thought, oh no. And sure enough, a couple days later, I was sick, had a bad cold. You know why I caught that? Because that child had a bad cold. That child had a bad cold, and that child sneezed right in my face, and guess what? I caught the bad cold. That little child was contagious. We're talking about what are the principles of the disciple-making movements, and how will that work in the United States? How will that work in the United States? The first principle we talked about was a kingdom mindset. We have to have our motives about the advance of the kingdom. Now we're talking about it's a God thing. So this is It's a God thing part 2, but I'm really talking about, are you a contagious Christian? Because here's what the point is. The point is this. You can only cause somebody to catch a disease that you actually have. I mean, if that mother had stuck her head in the doorway of my car that day and said, I want to discuss with you the rhinovirus, the virus that causes the common cold, and we had a nice intellectual discussion about the rhinovirus, my question is, would I have gotten sick? Absolutely not. Because knowing about a bad cold, knowing about a virus, knowing about a disease, and discussing it, if that's all it is, the other person may learn about it, but they won't actually have the disease. You have to have the disease to transmit it to somebody else. And disciple-making movements, they're a God thing, but the key about them to being a God thing is, you and I, if we're going to actually be a part of transmitting this God thing, we have to have the bug ourselves. In other words, if God is not working in my life, if it's not real in me, if the principles that I'm talking about in these little videos, if these principles are not a part of me, they won't become a part of somebody else. See, that's the whole thing about New Testament Christianity in the first place. You know, in the Old Covenant, God spoke something to the prophet Jeremiah. I'm going to read that to you. Jeremiah chapter 31. God said this in Jeremiah 31, 32, and 33. He said, the time is coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. And it will not be like the covenant I made with their forefathers when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt, because they broke my covenant, though I was a husband to them, declares the Lord. This is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. I will be their God and they'll be my people. Let me put it this way. God said, my stuff, my principles, my standards, my word will become a part of, my spirit will become a part of you. Your spiritual DNA is going to change. Now, that's what happens when we accept Jesus. That's what happens when we experience the new birth. If something happens, we really do become a new creature, and we catch it right then. But a lot of us as Christians, we catch it. We catch real Christianity. We catch it. We become born again. We're changed. But, I don't know, we spend the rest of our lives taking spiritual antibiotics to kill it out. The world around us is trying to kill out the disease. It's really not a disease. It's trying to kill out that life of God that's in us. So what I'm saying is, it's a God thing. And we've got to catch the real thing, but not only that, we've got to nurture it. We want this thing to really run in our lives. We want this thing to be real and to explode out from us. Now, there are some practices some principles and practices that we put into place in order to, we don't want to kill out the move of the Spirit in our lives that's contagious, that'll become a disciple-making movement. We want to nurture it. We want to cultivate it. I want to talk about those practices next week. Thanks for watching.